Good. We haven't seen each other in forever, Stephanie, and I'm really excited to chat with you because anybody who's going to be jumping on, and hopefully people will, you and I have known each other since I was probably about 15 or 16 years old, which is crazy when we think about the legacy of how long we've known each other. And then we worked together at Wedding Bells too. So it's been it's been a fun ride.
Yeah, it's been a number of years, and I don't think we should even do the math on that and let our let our community know like exactly our ages. But you went to school with my sister, my younger sister, and so that's how we first became aware of each other. And then, yeah, working together side by side was fantastic for several years. So we have similar backgrounds as well.
And I was pregnant with my kid and you had just had your son. So we're kind of going through those toddler years, and now our boys are like young men. So it's kind of wild.
Yeah, how old is Brady?
He's 15 now.
Okay, yeah, right. Spencer's 16, so that's right.
Yeah,
The
it's
babe.
kind of wild. Yeah, yeah. And then
I know.
your other kids too, they've flown the coop and living.
Yes, that's what I say. I have two grown and flown in their mid 20s and living their life and doing really well at it. I would say that they are successfully living their life in this moment with what they want to do. And so that just makes me feel, oh, like I've done my job. I've helped to give them some roots, and then I've given them wings to fly because as you know, it's hard to let them go, but we must do that, and that just makes for a much better relationship too between parent and kid.
Oh, so much. And maybe we'll even talk about that too. So I want to do a little intro in case people don't know you yet. So I'm going to do a little intro, which is your name is Stephanie. Stephanie, I had this on there, Jackson Rourke, but it's Stephanie Rourke Jackson because I knew you as Stephanie Rourke. Well, actually, did I know you before you were married? I don't know. I just always knew you as Stephanie Rourke, but you're Stephanie Rourke Jackson. You're a high energy, naturally curious problem solver coach who guides ambitious people and teams to generate new ideas, grow their confidence, crush limiting beliefs, love that, and discover their full potential. And your company, Beacon Coaching and Leadership, helps you get what you want to alleviate the feeling of being stuck, whether you're in a career or in relationships. And as a result, develop a more meaningful and transformed life where you feel fully alive. And so I am so excited to talk about this because this is the reason why I started this little podcast was really, as I noticed when I was writing LinkedIn profiles for a very varying backgrounds of leadership people through job transitions, students even, I found that limiting belief, imposter syndrome is rampant. And I think you'll probably agree with me that I think I expected that once I reached a certain age that it would have just magically disappeared. And here I am in a different part of my life, still going through the am I still enough? Am I still doing enough? Are people going to find out that I feel like I don't know what the hell I'm talking about? And so as I realized this, I was interviewing really senior executives, some really big companies. And when I got to the point of asking them, so tell me, what are your most proudest accomplishments or key moments in your career? Typically, they'll say to me, "Well, I was on a team, so I don't really want to look like I'm bragging." And so that's why I started this podcast, was because it's I don't know, the word's ubiquitous. It's everywhere. And so I'm glad that you're going to be talking with us about this because I think it's so important. So, but before we
Yeah.
here, I kind of want to talk to you about your career because your career path has moved from you were in public relations and in marketing and sales and now this coaching. So how did you get involved in public relations in the first place in marketing?
Yeah, that's a great question and a good place to start. First of all, I just want to say, hey, human, I see you, I know you, I am you. I think going back to your very first point, that when we can accept that we are human and that we have marvelous qualities and we have such abilities and strength and capacity, and we have so much within us, desires and competencies, and then we also have limitations, and we have distractions, and we have doubts, and we've made mistakes, and we can hold all of that together and accept ourselves for who we are, but not let ourselves stay there. Like we can continue on, and we can have more opportunities, and we can overcome adversity and we can accomplish the goals that we want. I think it's just good to know that we're all pretty much in the same boat, unless, of course, you're a complete narcissist or you are a psychopath. So let's just take those those two identities out of the mix, and let's just say, hey, human, this is who you are. So stop beating yourself up, but get to know who you really are, and then bring that out into the world and into your relationships, and affirm yourself within it. So yeah, well, I'll take you kind of far back. When I was 12, my dad brought home a magazine from New York, a fashion magazine, and I was fascinated. I was enthralled. I tore that thing apart. I looked at it from cover to cover, and I just was so intrigued by the whole fashion industry and style and what people were wearing and lifestyle and the articles and the shiny paper. And I was just taken in. So I decided at that point that I was going to do something in fashion. And I didn't want to sew because I wasn't really much of a designer. And I really didn't like the tediousness of putting fabric underneath a little machine and have it snag and frustrate the hell out of me. So I thought, okay, well, what else is there? And then I went to school and I studied fashion merchandising and marketing and advertising and sales and public relations and all of that aspect of it. And then immediately got hired and spent 25 years living my dream and enjoying pretty much every moment of it, working with designers and establishing fashion shows and doing public relations and attending events and selling advertising and getting to know clients and matching, products with the end consumer. And all of it was so wonderful until it wasn't. And when it wasn't, that pain, that felt intensity, that I was living outside of my integrity, and the tension that I felt within me was physically felt and emotionally disturbed me. Like I did not get up in the morning wanting to go into work. I would circle the building. I, tried to think of every excuse for not showing up. And it was terrible because I didn't want to live a life like that. And I think, going back about 10 years, I encountered a really terrible devastation in my marriage. So I hit a crisis. My husband and I were completely just decimated, and I lost myself. Like I literally lost who I was, what my identity was, and who I thought I was, because I had hung my identity and the my personhood on roles and titles. And when I'm working with my clients, I ask them that. I say, tell me about yourself. Tell me who you are. Tell me, what lights you up. And inevitably, it always goes to, well, I'm married. I've got 3 kids. I am a CEO of a company. I make $200,000 a year. I live in Toronto. I drive a sports car and go on vacation once a year. I'm like, okay, so that's great. So let's just say you're not married. Your kids are all grown up. You don't have to parent them anymore. The company that you work for has gone out of business. You no longer have a job and your bank account is zero. Tell me who you are. And people just don't know where to start because they have associated themselves with their roles and their titles so closely that they can't even describe what does light them up, what is their best potential, what contributions have they made, what significance they have to offer, what are they passionate about, what are their strengths, what's their personality, what do people affirm in them, what do they want to still continue to do. And it's that dreaming stage, that desire to know who I am. Therefore, I have the confidence at that point when you honestly know and can describe yourself in language that's yours, that resonates with you and aligns with the fundamental values that you stand on, the beliefs that you hold well to your to your soul, that just, this is me, and you're not afraid to share it. When that happens, you do feel like you're unstoppable. You feel like I have purpose in this world and it has meaning to other people. And the thing about understanding your identity, and that's basically my specialty, in terms of being a life coach and leadership coach, because we are learning how to self lead, by understanding ourself and being aware, hyper aware of ourself. And when we come with that position, there are obstacles that will come, there are adversities that are going to come, but we can take what we know about ourselves and who we are, and we can use the resilience that we've already built, the courage that we have, and the understanding of what my capacity is to be able to insert ourselves into any area of life, into, all of the different domains of our life, into my work or my vocation, into my relationships, friendships, into my romantic partner, into my parenting, or into my health and wellness, or into my, contribution to community or learning and growth. Like, we are not just one faceted person, but we do bring our identity, the true self, into all of those areas. And when I hear people say, I'm a different person at work than I am at home, and a different person in my civil responsibilities, or in my church group, or, in my community where I volunteer, I think that's a terrible place to be, because you are constantly posturing and positioning yourself, and trying to be this perfect expectation of what somebody else wants from you in that situation, whether it's at work, or it's in your relationship, or it's, wherever. And it can become exhausting, and that's where we fall apart and we break down and we burn out.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And I love all of that, because I think you're absolutely right. And it comes down to, what is your authentic brand, right? Of who you are. And sometimes we do show up. I mean, I show up to work with a different outfit than I would going out with my girlfriends, but the core of who I am is still the same person. But you're right. If you're wearing different masks for different audiences, for different people, and you're not being your true authentic self, I think people can tell too. I think, the person that you're with, if there's not an alignment there, people kind of go like, there's something not right here.
Exactly. People will call bullshit on you, but they probably are not brave enough to say it, because it's going to hurt your feelings, or it might ruin the relationship, or then what's going to happen, or you're judging me. But when you can actually, and I think this is a quality of, when you work with a life coach, you're going to learn skills that help you in your career, especially to be unoffendable, and to be able to receive feedback in a healthy way that's constructive, that helps you to move forward, and to maybe make some changes. And here's the thing: people will say, well, I've done personality assessments before, DISC, MBTI, 16 personalities, whatever you want to call it, the colors, and Enneagram. And I do use those as well too, because they are very good tools, especially if they're reputable. They're very good tools to inform us about the type of person we are. Not exactly, and not 100%, because everybody's bringing in a different array of circumstances, and family of origin junk, and cultural influences, as well as our own lived experience. So yes, they're going to be about maybe 85 to 90% accurate if you answer it honestly, and not if you answer it by, well, who do I want to be? But instead, do answer it in the truest form from your 20-year-old self, because you've lived enough to kind of get a grip on who you are, but you haven't learned so many strategies and tactics on how to manage yourself so that you think you're somebody else. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you're doing an assessment like that, and you answer that honestly, you can grab the information that lands with you, that resonates with you, that you have evidence to prove, oh yes, I do show up that way in this assignment. And you can actually point to something historically that you've done, or that somebody else has affirmed in you. Therefore, you now own it. And to own it means, that's something that I do really well. That's a shine quality that I have, that I want to bring out into the world. And no, not everybody else does it. Not everybody else, it's not just an easy thing for everybody else to do. Like, who am I? Why would I be asked to do this type of work? um, who you are and the way in which you're wired and how you think and the lens in which you see the world and the passions that you have inside of you are all very unique, very unique. And so when you can grasp that and actually with confidence and not with arrogance, and I think you were talking about this too, like it's not bragging or being conceited when you can share with other people what you do well, because then they can utilize your strengths and you will feel a sense of fulfillment and contribution, and the productivity goes up at work, the efficiency is better, the morale, your sense of well-being goes up. It's a spectacular thing to witness teams that actually know who each other is and being able to utilize their identities in relationship or collaboration to make something happen that's going to be, a positive result. It's not about competition and comparison, it's about collaboration. But when we don't know who we are and who the other people that we are in relationship with, whether it's on a team or at work or it's in a family, um, you're constantly second guessing yourself. And then that's when that voice comes up, right? That you were just talking about. That voice of the inner critic that holds you back and keeps you small and causes you to judge yourself and have these limiting beliefs. And then it's like, well, where did that come from? Where did that voice come from? And so when I'm working with my clients, we actually journey to find out when the first time that limiting belief or whatever that inner critic or that imposter syndrome voice is, when did it first show up and what happened? And then we go back to relieve that experience, whether it's, resolve the conflict, forgive self, know better because you've done better. It's just a fabulous experience of, it's a self-awareness life journey, and then we can establish who we are again with that confidence. Why? So that we have fulfillment, so that we enjoy our life, so that we have a form of contentment, but we also have the knowing that when challenges do come, when adversity does come, when struggles do come, we don't have to be anxious about it. We know that we have the tools and we're equipped and we feel empowered to be able to manage it in the moment.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. And there's so much to unpack with all of that. There's so many little, I don't know if they're idioms or like sayings that I have that, to what you're saying to me, okay, I'm going on all of these different places where I could go with my brain. The one thing I say often, and people have heard me say it over and over again, is when we're inside the jar, we can't see the label. And so often we don't see ourselves the way that other people see us. And I think that exercise, what you're telling me, is a really good thing that we just don't do. We see the world through our lens, but we never really take a really good self-assessment on our values. And I've just known myself, and it's one of the greatest parts about getting older is the older I get, the more I am stepping into the value of what I provide. It's a journey. It's, I think we're all, if we stop learning and growing and wanting to go on the journey, then I think that's at the point when you just pack it in because you're done. But I think doing that self-assessment is really important, because when you do know your unique value that you're bringing to the table, you're right. You're much more confident because you're like, actually, I do this uncommonly well. I think that everybody else, because this is easy for me, that I do this really well. But everybody else is like, oh my gosh, I could never do that. I could never do that. And so everybody has that. Everybody has that unique value that they're bringing to the table. So own it, embrace it, and recognize that, what I say to people all the time is like, nobody knows what you know from your perspective. So own it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And perspective is a beautiful asset to have. Perspective and perception.
Mhm.
And as a coach, I would be using my own perspective and perception to listen intently to what my client is saying and not saying, right? So the training that I have, and this is what sets apart, I think, a good coach from somebody who calls himself a coach. Like, there is training involved, there's rigor and structure around the coaching practice. Confidentiality is a basic requirement that builds trust. Listening is something that we are trained to do, and not just listening to the client and what they say, but also listening to what they don't say, listening for body tone, for inflection in the voice, for emotion that creeps up, listening to what's happening around in the space or in the container in which we are coaching, and listening to my own self. I have to self manage all the time to like be present and put things aside that come up for me that might be triggers as well, because my attention and my focus is on my client and helping her or him journey through and understand their own self better. So I'm not an advisor or a mentor. Sometimes, some mentoring tactics do come in to the coaching relationship. I'm not a counselor, not a therapist. So I know one of the questions that you were asking was, well, what does a coach do? And I describe it best by saying, if you're in a crisis situation, and we'll all go through some level of crisis in our life, depending on, our own woundedness and our own personality and whatever will cause us to sort of go off track. But when we're in crisis, we have almost no ability to think logically and to just breathe, right? So if you're in the middle of the ocean and you are drowning, like you are going underwater, you can hardly catch your breath. You can't focus on anything else except just trying to survive. That's a counselor, therapist, situation. So that would be like, okay, you need some deep work on helping that crisis situation and getting yourself up so that you're out here now paddling water, like a doggy paddle, and you've been breathing for a while and you're surviving, but you're getting tired because it's looking a little bit boring and you still feel a bit stuck. You can kind of see the shoreline, but not quite. And you just want to get there. It's like enough already. I just want to go and live my life, but I still feel like I'm sort of stuck because I don't have the clarity and maybe not the confidence yet to be able to go do it. So a coach comes along in a boat and says, hey, I see you out there. You want to stay there? No, I do not. Okay, well, what is it that you do want? Well, I want to get to the shore. Okay, why? Why is that important to you? Well, because I want to live my life, because I've got things I want to accomplish. I've got dreams and desires and hopes. I'm not really sure exactly what they are, but I know there's something more. I know that there's something else there. Great. I'm going to come with you. So you're not going in the boat with me. I'm going to coach you along. How do you think you could get there? I guess I could move my arms. Great. Try that. How did that work? Yeah, that worked pretty good. Wonderful. What did you accomplish? Well, I got a little further. Okay, what else can you do? I can use my legs. Yes, let's try that. How did that work for you? Yes, I moved along even further. I got to the next goal or the next, I progressed. Awesome. Now what do you want to do? And this is really the journey of the coach, seeing them for the potential that they have and drawing it out and then discovering it together and putting information or just ideas and being allowed to dream onto paper. And then there's exercises and there's different tactics and there's different practices that we can use that fit with the type of person that I am coaching. So it's not a one size fits all, which is why it's a lot of questions, a lot of powerful questions that get the client to dig deeper into themselves so they become aware and feel like, oh, I got it. Like I've got a handle on my life now. And being able to describe it and using words and vocabulary and articulate what they want and having that safe space to do it where there's no judgment. It's like, hey, why not? Let's try it. How did that go for you? What else did you learn? What else is down there? What's holding you back? What are you resisting? Like, let me ask you, Leslie,
Okay.
you know, like what's a goal or something in an area of your life? It could be work, it could be, romantic, it could be health and wellness. What's a goal that you want to accomplish that you feel you've been somewhat stuck in?
That's a good question. I think just off the top of my head, I could work on I'm not even though I have worked in sales, I don't love pitching. Like I don't love selling myself. And so I could work on doing a better job of outreach, of telling people, this is what I do.
And why? Why would you want to accomplish that goal?
More
What
money.
would it what would it do for you? For more money. Okay, sure.
Well, in some ways, sure. Like, just expanding my business, sort of growth in
Yeah.
that potential. So, there are self-limiting beliefs that I recognize that I do from growing my business or growing what I do and making excuses as to why I can't do those things for sure.
So
Yeah.
what does your inner critic say to you?
Somewhat of the well, I want to like, and I'm not a control freak, and but it's the like no one can do it as well as I can. Like if I wanted to bring on a partner to do more profile writing or to do whatever, people are hiring me, and so bringing on other team members in order to expand and grow. The two questions I have is, well, can I sort of let go of that control of allowing someone else to do that, and then do I want to manage other people? But that's a whole other story.
Yeah, so when that voice comes in to tell you, "Oh, no, 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 you don't wanna do that because that's not gonna go well for you," which is typically what your inner critic is going to say to you. And your
Mhm.
inner critic, honestly, is there to protect you. It feels like you're in a dangerous situation, there's an uncertainty looming. What if it doesn't go well? What if it's worse? What if it costs you something, more money, or it costs you time or energy, or what if it's painful? Right? All of these questions that can come up, that is what the inner critic is trying to protect you from. But at the same time, the inner critic holds you back and actually keeps you here. You want to be here. The gap is where the tension is felt because you're like, I know I probably could, but yet I stay stuck here. Why do I do that? And when we investigate the voice of our inner critic, what we really want to do is be able to not necessarily just, shut it up and put in the back seat, although we can do that, but we want to learn from what that voice is trying to share with us. And when we can sort of make friends with it and actually name it, like give it a name. Okay, so my one of my inner critics is called Gloria. So Gloria likes to remind me that my shine is gone, my sparkle is faded. They're not going to like you. Sure, they like you right now, but give them time and then you're not going to be interesting anymore and they're just going to walk away from you. Right? They're going to laugh at you.
Mm.
And so I know this voice very well because I can point to certain situations in my life where I've actually been in that position and that was what I felt. So I don't want to put myself in those positions. Therefore, I keep myself stuck in some areas because I don't even venture out into it because of that fear, that anxiety that eventually this is what's going to happen. So I need to recognize it and say, okay, Gloria, is there any real danger here? Like honestly. And sometimes there is, right? Sometimes it's like, "Ooh, that was a good thing I didn't venture into that relationship or, say yes to that project. So I'm glad that I didn't." But most of the time, it's just the voice that's going to hold you back, keep you small, and keep you stuck. And you have to know your why, like Simon Sinek says. But honestly, the vision that you have for your life is your why and your legacy. And what do you want to contribute at the end of your life? You can do that exercise. At my funeral, what do I want people to say about me? What what things do I want to have accomplished? How do I want to make people feel? What kind of impact did I want to make? In my family, in my community, in the world. It doesn't have to be grand. It can be small, but it has to be yours. How do I define success? And what makes me have a successful life, a successful year, a successful day? And when you can really clearly define that, it's easy to check the box because everything that you do becomes then an intention towards this is the kind of life that I want to have. So, how am I going to self discipline me by saying yes to the things that are going to align with that? And how am I going to exercise self control, which is where I say no, because it's not going to help me get ahead. And the no is going to come with a lot of like the distractions, the time commitments, the interruptions, the procrastination. And it's knowing what those are so that you can put boundaries around them and actually have the language to be able to say no to yourself or to others. And then also to say yes to the things that, could be exciting. And of course, you're never going to get it on the first shot. Like, failure is a marvelous teacher. We should see, and this is the mind shift reframe, right? Or the perspective. Failure is an awesome way to finally get to what we want, or to learn along the way, and to iterate and to share our experiences with other people who are coming up behind us. Like, this is how we teach, and this is how we share our own perspective and expertise with others, because we have to go through failure. Plus, if we don't build any grit. We have absolutely no courage. We have no resiliency. And that's part of the human experience. So understanding and learning all of that about yourself, it sounds like it's so much, but when you're going through the process of working with a coach, whether it's over 3 months or 6 months, that's why it takes time, and you never stop learning. But you now have tools, and you're equipped with being able to manage yourself and ask for what you want and achieve so much more. There's a quote that I love to use in my workshops and in my retreats that I lead. And this quote is from an end-of-life nurse. Her name is Bronnie Ware, and she works with people who are dying, right? So it's the end of life. And she actually wrote a book, and she interviewed the dying, and she said, what are some of your regrets? And the number one regret of the dying was not having the courage to live the life they wanted to live, but instead lived a life to everybody else's expectations. And that is such a sad place to end up. And it's also a sad way to live your life. And we all have that, right? My parents want this for me, my spouse wants this for me, but my kids want this for me, or my kids are making, or my boss wants this. And it's like, use your own voice. You have a voice, and you have desires, and you have dreams and aspirations, and you're motivated differently. Use that to impact other people, like impact the world in a positive way. What do you bring forward? And also, it gives you self-satisfaction. There's nothing wrong with you saying, hey, this felt good, and I'm so glad that I showed up and I did a great job.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and I think that the one thing that I've learned, because I've been on this exploration too, taken some neurolinguistic programming and stuff too. So the thing that I think is remarkable in a way is that amygdala, that our pre-verbal part of our brain was designed as animals to protect us. Like, we are hardwired as animals to have that pre-verbal part of our brain, so that we didn't get eaten by animals. And so, but it's just now morphed into, what is someone else going to say about me? That fear of putting ourselves out there, for fear of someone saying, for my son and his gal are now watching us on YouTube. So that's who's sort of.
Oh, is that the virtual hug?
Yeah.
Sweet.
So I love seeing them on here, because we were having this very conversation last night, the three of us. So I think, that pre-verbal part of our brain is hardwired to rip us apart in a way, because we don't want to put ourselves out there for fear of rejection, for fear of, like, what is someone going to say? And yet, I know you're a big fan of Brene Brown too. And so when she read the Man in the Arena quote from Teddy Roosevelt, it changed my life.
Yeah.
Because as a public speaker, I get criticized all the time for talking too fast. I'm a little too animated. One person said I seemed a little manic, right? Yeah, okay. So I'm supposed to be entertaining. I'm supposed to be on stage. I'm supposed to be lively, right? If I came up and was like, today we're going to be talking about LinkedIn and Bueller, like, that, right? And so
yeah, absolutely.
But I was looking through the feedback forms, and I was going, where are all of the the harshest critics? I want to see the harshest critics. And I had to go check myself, and I had to say, listen, sister, like, you had 99% of people say they really enjoyed it. They had a great time. One person said I seemed a little manic, and that's the one I focused on. That's the one I became obsessed with. Okay, how do I not do that anymore? Well, that's not, and I'm glad my kid is watching, because he checks me all the time and says, Mom, that's not their criticism on you is not on you, it's on them. That's whatever's going through in their brain. And I love that he, shared that with me,
Hmm.
because it's so
Yeah.
very true. Those criticisms from other people, if they're not in the arena, if they don't speak on stage, if they don't have then, they can talk all they want, but it's a whole lot different when you're in the middle of doing it. There's more compassion, I think, for people. I'm more receptive to feedback from other speakers because they've been in the arena and they get it.
Yeah.
And their criticisms aren't criticisms. It is much more about, okay, so how can I up level myself? As opposed
Hmm.
to those people who are just like, don't like her. Well, okay. Not everybody's gonna like me. That's hard for me.
There's,
People pleaser,
yeah,
but
there's an interesting psychodynamic that goes on actually when, because you just referenced it, but when you feel that people are criticizing you and then also projecting. Here's the real definition of projecting. Projecting is what I think you're thinking of me, but really I'm thinking about myself. And when we can actually take it and look at it from that perspective and say, why do I think that way about myself? And being critical or judgmental of ourselves and of other people, the antidote for that is compassion. And the way that you can get there is when you notice that you're being judgy of somebody else. You're like, oh, I don't like the way that she does it. Why is she wearing that necklace with this? Or I don't like people who do this. And I don't like whatever it is that we are judging people on, and being critical of them. Take a step back and be curious. Curiosity has such weight because judgment and curiosity cannot occupy the brain at the same time. So if you feel like you're judging yourself and self-deprecating and coming down and being really hard on yourself, probably you're a perfectionist. So that's another issue that, needs to be resolved. But and also you're expecting perfection from somebody else who just can't give it to you the way that you want it, because people are not necessarily good or bad or right or wrong. They're just different. And when we can hold that as well, the way you do things is not necessarily right or wrong or good or bad. It might be to me the way that I receive it, or through the values and the ethics that I live my life. I'm going to see the way that you do yours is being wrong against my right. But if we can just hold like, it's not necessarily right or wrong, good or bad. It's just different. And I'm going to get curious. I wonder where that person's been. I wonder what their life story is. I wonder what happened to him this morning that caused him to react that way. I wonder where her life has been. I wonder kind of, difficulties she's experiencing. When we can do that, we actually put ourselves into a place of compassion. Wow. I hope people do that for me too, because I'm not always, on my best. I have moments, I have days, and you want people to be able to say, hey, you know what? Thanks for letting me know that something was going on in your life, and that's why you reacted the way that you did. And thank you for apologizing for it. I mean, conflict resolution is going to involve a lot of apologizing and a lot of forgiveness, but then also a lot of courageous conversations, like actually saying what you are experiencing and what you are feeling, and then requesting a change. So reveal and request. This is such a good method. And I do this a lot with my clients because they'll tell me a situation and they say it as if it's in sort of first person, like they've already had this discussion with their boss or their spouse or their kid. And I'm like, well, what did they say when you said that to them? Well, I didn't actually tell them. I'm like, well, why not? Oh, no, it just wouldn't go well. Well, how do you know? Well, I've had something like this happen in the past. Well, then how are you actually going to resolve it if you don't say what's really happening, what's really like, actually say the thing, be truthful. And you don't have to do it in a demanding way, and you don't have to do it in a cutting way or an offensive way. You actually practice how to have the courageous conversation. And you start by saying, hey, I have something really hard to say. This is difficult for me, and I would really appreciate your attention. You might want to say something, but I just need to get it out. And when I'm done, we can talk about it. Are you okay with that? You get the person to buy in, and then you actually lead them to where you want to be. And this is the outcome that I want. Now, you may not want that, and you are free to tell me, but this is what I want. I do this with my kids, and this sounds silly because sometimes, there are very big, complicated issues that need to get resolved. So, as a coach, helping somebody to get there, to actually free themselves from these strongholds or this bondage that keeps them stuck, right? Because really, as a coach, I'm helping my clients get unstuck from whatever it is that they feel like they just can't move through or move past. So with my kids, they'll be downstairs and, there's dishes all over the sink. I mean, moms, dads, and the house is in disarray and they're just down there gaming. And like, hey, I could go down there and start screaming and yelling, which, I do. And we know that that doesn't go so well. There's like glaze over. Sure, mom, stop. But I sit down and I wait. I watch what they're doing. I ask them what game they're playing. Inside, though, I'm seething. I just want to like let it out. But I'm like, hey, manage, be patient. This is, this is going to go well. And so, asking them the game that they're playing, they tell me, I cheer them on a little bit. And then I'm like, hey, are you done? Yeah, I have something that I want to ask you guys. Oh, okay. I just came downstairs after working a really long day, and the kitchen is a disaster. Like, it's really quite messy. And when I come down to that, it just makes me feel really frustrated, and I don't want to be frustrated. So I'm going to request that you guys go upstairs and you can divide it up however you want. You can unload the dishwasher and you can clear off the sink. But are you willing to do that? Oh, yeah, sure. Okay, great. When? Well, we're just going to finish this. So what time? 20 minutes? Sounds good. So at 7:30, you're going to clean it all up? Yep, we will. Great. And it's such a shift in being able to like understand that compassion piece, like you were just saying, and to have different language and to do it from a place of like, hey, I know this about myself, so I can utilize, my shine qualities. I understand what my stressors are, what sets me off, what takes me off my path, what threatens me. I know the shadow side of, that underbelly of what can happen when I react, and I know how that's going to go. So in the moment, I can actually take a different approach and shift my temperament, shift my attitude, shift my voice, shift the words that I'm going to say, and desire a better outcome so that it's successful. And literally, Leslie, these are the five positions or 5 different aspects of the identity mapping program that I've developed. And we look at, what are your shine qualities? What are the stressors? What shadow side appears when the stressor cuts in and threatens to disrupt you? How can you shift in the moment? What do you know about yourself? What can you use? What kind of approach? How can you do it differently so that it's successful? And that works with everything in your work, in your health and wellness, in your relationships. When you understand that system of like, okay, well, what are my shine qualities? What's the very best of me? I want that to come out. I want that to lead the way. Yet I will get stressed out. And how does it feel inside me? How do I react? What happens? What are the words? What are the actions? What are what happens to me? I need to be aware of it. Typically, these are blind spots, but you need to be aware of it so that you can say, ooh, my default position when something comes in to threaten me is this. So I already know ahead of time that could happen. So how am I going to manage myself in the moment? Well, there's all kinds of different shifting mindset, growth opportunities, different perspectives, different ways of thinking about things, challenging ourselves so that we have a successful outcome.
Yeah. So we want to say hi to Amy. Amy and I had gone to high school together. So hi, Amy.
Hi, Amy.
And I'm going to assume it's AJ, who's the other person, because he often comes up as LinkedIn user, who says, a great way to have a conversation with colleagues and in personal life too, Stephanie. So being authentic is important, but still a challenge sometimes for sure. And I find that both of those, and you probably are seeing this in your work, but this is just from a personal perspective, that the challenges that I typically have in either personal life or my professional life, they kind of almost seem to come, whatever it is that I'm challenged with, it happens on both sides.
Like,
That
what do you mean? Can you tell me more?
Yeah, so I mean, let's say I'm having a problem with communication, or I'm feeling stuck in the exact same example that you're giving of like, how do I communicate this effectively? I'll find that there is something that's going on in my personal life, and then I'll notice that there is also something going on in my professional life that happens to mirror at the same time. And I'm
Mm.
like, oh, so this theme is coming into my life for a reason. I'm seeing it on both sides, and how can I apply this to both my personal life and professional life? And so one thing that I wanted to jump in, and I was having this conversation with my kid and his gal last night. Oh, it's Eleanor. Oh, your cousin Eleanor's on. Yay.
Hi, Al.
And it was the conversation about power, and it was sort of, I was listening to a podcast on my drive home. I was in the city last night, and just thinking about giving power, and this may come in a completely different context, but let me just say my piece here, which was, and hopefully my kid's still on the call here. When I'm asking him to do something, oftentimes, to your point of like having a conversation with him as opposed to getting angry, I've always said to him, like, I'll give you a couple of warning shots before I lose my cool. And having the conversation of giving him the power and make in some of the decision making process of, yes, you need to clean up your room and this needs to be done by this time, and helping him with the decision making process as opposed to me coming in and finger wagging and getting annoyed and just losing my cool, allows him to sort of make some of those decisions on his own, so that he doesn't feel that it's completely like, oh, here she goes again, and powerless. I'm being told what to do. He also is brought in the decision.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
am I still live here? Okay.
I can hear your voice, but okay, you're back. With no
Frozen.
voice.
Okay.
A little frozen, but that's okay. We've all dealt with these kinds of
Okay.
technology difficulties for the last 18, 20 months. Yeah, I like that you said that too. And I think, like, in our family, I am a coach, and that's not just my profession, that's my identity, right? I thrive by helping others to step into their full potential and to really value themselves and their worth and what they have to contribute, as well as, who they are, and to have compassion for them. But I really look forward to encouraging people a lot. I Not only does it bring out the best, and just help people to live a life of authenticity and enjoyment, and contribution, but it also, I hope, it helps to lessen the common misery. Like, there's a lot of miserable people out there, and I'm making it my mission to help them to be less miserable. Okay, so with my kids, I get them to do personality assessments. Why? Because it informs me of who they are. And one of my favorites is the Enneagram, because I think that it really gives a deep understanding and deep insight into three areas: our core desires, our core motivations. Like, why am I motivated to do some things and not others? Why are some things really important to me and other things are not? And then what my core fears are. And so when we're aware of our core fear and the things that come in to take us off our path, like for me, one of my core fears is rejection and the sense of somebody else controlling me. I don't like that at all. So when I feel that in my body, like, I know what it feels like, I know where it comes up, I know where the tension comes up, I can identify, go, oh, this is happening again. Somebody, or I feel like somebody is threatening to control me and take control away from me, take my power away. Right? So I can either react and get really big, which is what I do. I do the fight. When you fight, flight, freeze, when you're talking about the cortisol that's released, and then this is our response behavior. Me, it's fight. Like, I'm a bit of a challenger, and I'll bully you to make myself feel better. But that doesn't go well. Oh, so now I've just come in and just bulldozed somebody over, and over functioned so that I feel better about myself, that's not healthy. So what I learned to do is to go, like, that's when I'm disintegrating. What we want to do is know, oh, where do I need to go towards to practice integration so that I can still, like, I can still have that part of me, but then I also know how to manage myself well so that I do have a better experience and with my kids. And so now knowing, and all of my kids are a little bit older, but you can, you know, collect personality traits and see what your kids' strengths are and what they do enjoy doing and how they light up and come alive, and they talk about the things that are really important to them, and keep encouraging them that in that area, and stop trying to get them to do something that is really not their design, right? They're not wired for that. So you're going to just have this all the time, and it just doesn't make for a flourishing type of experience, of human experience. Now, not to say that there aren't certain things that you, just because you're not good at something or because you're not wired that way, doesn't mean that you can't learn the skill, because that makes you a responsible person in the world. Like, I'm not good at time management. I suck at it. Also, I have ADHD, which, you know, time management and time blindness is a characteristic of people who have ADHD. It's a real neurological disorder. So I have to be aware of that and not say, well, oops, sorry, I have ADHD, so, you know, expect me at least 30 minutes to an hour late. No, I need to now learn the skill of how to manage my time. It's not a natural ability in me. Some people are very punctual, they follow all the rules, they, you know, they like to have everything be very structured, and that's great because that's part of their wiring. They have other shadow sides too, but when you know that that's something that's just an important trait to have in life, you learn the skill, you discipline yourself in it, you practice it, because it makes you a good human.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Gosh, we're getting close to the like we have 8 minutes left.
Oh my gosh.
There's so
Okay.
much
So
to
I don't
say.
know. Is there anything else that you really wanted to like dig into, or
Well, there's so much to unpack here, and I think that that's why it's so important for people to come and see you and find out more about, what it is and how you can help them, because I think, what typically, what a coach, as you said, like, you're not necessarily a mentor, but it does help to have a sounding board to go through the exploration of having someone who has the skill set and the, those tools to unpack all of those things, to, like, to make sure that, you do feel good. And it's really about, oftentimes we can't do this with our friends and our family because they have a biased view about us as well, right? And so friends and family, everybody wants the best for us, quite frankly, and I say that all
yeah.
the time, right? We all have the best intentions in order to help people succeed in life. And so, those shoulds that come along, it's like I hate the shoulds. And so my good reframe is I could do that, because I've realized that when people will give me feedback, they do have the best intentions, and I'm getting to know my authentic self well enough to go, okay, well, that's what you would like to see in me, but I'm pretty good with what's going on right now, so that's okay. You go ahead, and you can, and I like, just, I don't have this, obviously, this discussion with them, but I give them the space in which to say these things, and then just change the conversation because
Well,
really
and what you're talking about, Leslie, is having a boundary, and again, having the confidence to be able to stay in an uncomfortable situation, but managing yourself within it. So if you want to grow and you want to learn and you want to stretch yourself and you want to accomplish things, you're going to be forced into some painful situations. And noticing how you default and react typically will give you the awareness to be able to say, okay, I don't want to do that. I'm not going to reach across the desk of my boss and pummel him, because first of all, it's not going to go well. I might get fired or go to jail. But it's not going to solve anything, but it's what I feel. So I feel that urge come up and go like, and then you learn strategies to help you in it. And some of them are just as simple as taking a breath. And that can be, you don't have to go, in that situation, because that'll just look odd.
Yeah.
But you can learn how to, like, okay, I just need to take a breath here. I need to cut the cortisol. I need to just be able to have some minutes to think. I can take, and these are simple tips that I'm teaching everybody right now. I can just grab, because usually everybody's got a bottle of water or something
Mhm.
there. It's like,
Yeah. A little cup of tea, a little sip.
right? When you do that, you pause. You naturally have to pause. You're not going to keep going, and you give yourself a moment to pause and collect yourself. And the other person's just going to wait for you because it's a natural thing for you to take a sip of water. They're not going to look at you weird. But while that's happening, this is what you're saying to yourself. Okay, this is the water. It's in a jar. I'm going to drink it. The water's going through me. It's providing me with some oxygen. I'm calming myself down at the same time. Now I can actually bring myself back into the moment. I don't have to overreact, and I can just ask a question. What did you mean by that? Can you tell me more? I'm not sure I totally understand. Is what you're saying this? Or why did you say that? Where is it coming from? When you can ask clarifying questions so that you're not going to perform a suicide, right? Well, that's just naturally what he's saying. Of course, he's thinking that. This is what they're saying. He's trying to get me to do this or get me to do that. And when we can take a moment to be able to pull back and get perspective, like really pull ourselves above it and say, you know, do do I really have all the information here? Like, just because I think I know doesn't mean that I really do know. I could be wrong. And to actually give ourselves permission to say, well, you know what? I could be wrong here. And to confront, challenge, and change our beliefs feels weird, but that's what helps us to become a different person, or not a different person, sorry, but to have more perspective and to be able to have humility and to be able to work together and to have compassion. We can't be so completely structured on all of our beliefs because they can change. Our values typically don't. Our values are things that are really rooted in us and ground us. Our personality, again, doesn't change. We're born with it. The natural abilities and talents that we have, we are born with. And as we exercise them and practice them out in the world, they become strengths. Skills, we learn. We're not born with any skills except for how to cry. It's the only skill we know, right? Because I need something as a baby, I cry. But we learn our skills, and we're constantly on this continuum of not knowing, learning, getting better, mastery, or ooh, now I'm in with new people here. I haven't mastered it compared to them. So how can I train? And to be able to ask for help. Oh my goodness. So going back to my crisis in life at 46 years old, did I ever ask for help before that? No. Did I ever go to therapy? No, that's for weak people. Did I ever have a coach? Not at all. Did I have a mentor? Absolutely not. Why would I want to do that? I can take care of myself. Thank you very much. I'm a strong person. I'm independent. I've got it all together. That is the worst position to ever be in. Leaders, really good leaders, surround themselves with advisors, mentors, coaches, people who are going to speak into their life, encourage them, challenge them to go a little bit further. To have it all figured out and all together, that is a disaster waiting to happen. That means that you're perfect and you are actually waiting for every little thing to fall, and it's a space of anxiety, which means, oh my gosh, what if something happens in the future and I'm not able to cope with it? You won't be, because you haven't developed the skills, nor have you even asked people to come into your network, into your tribe, into your village and help you with having scaffolding, right? When we have intelligent people who are wise and yes, that are looking out for our best, and we invite them in as we develop and grow and build our life, they are the scaffolding that is there to hold us up. They're not going to actually make it for us, they're going to be there. So is that a coach? Is it a mentor? Is it a group, like some kind of accountability group or a mastermind that you're involved in? Is it your parent? Is it your spouse? Is it a really good friend? Is it somebody who will tell you the truth, not just flatter you with nice compliments because they want you to like them, but who will say, courageously, hey, there's something I've noticed in you, and I just wanted to check, are you okay? Like maybe if you did this a little bit differently, it might go better. Or I have an issue and I really need to bring it out, because in the development of having a healthy relationship, truth and transparency is required. Otherwise, it's flimsy.
Yeah. And that all this to say is it's a lot of hard work. I say, I'm using the word hard because it's not hard work, but there's work to go in. I mean, maybe it is hard. But it's work that is beneficial to be done,
Hmm.
whether it's, as you said, for leadership, for life, for business, challenging ourselves and up. I mean, I always say I want to up my game. I want to play full out. You can't play full out if you don't have those. And what sounds to me like what you're providing people, there's a lot of really good foundational work of getting to the core of the issues of you really knowing yourself. And once you kind of really get to know yourself better and do the work, which is like, I'm going to say hard for some people because it scares the crap out of them. But having somebody like yourself that is a safe place for people to land, right, is probably
Yeah, and
a little,
exactly. And you're going to look at, when you say, oh, it scares the crap out of you. And some people will say that, like, oh, that's really scary. Why?
yeah, yeah,
Uh, wow. Like, actually being honest with yourself, being
yeah.
honest with yourself, and then being honest about yourself with others gives you a sense of confidence that goes beyond that posturing, perfecting, you know, kind of life where you just feel like at any moment, somebody's going to pull the rug out and I'm going to be exposed, right? That going back to the imposter syndrome. If I'm exposed, then what? Then nobody's going to like me. People are going to run away. I'm not going to have friends. I'm not going to like that is an exhausting place to live. And we get to the point where it's like you don't need to live there anymore. So when I'm working with my clients, it's either one-on-one, and as I said, it's a 3 month to 6 month program. Now, the coaching process is a lot of questions and a lot of self-discovery, but I do take my clients through a program, and then based on their needs, there's different resources and exercises, and we work through things together. I also work with organizations, with teams, helping them to identify, who their community is and how to work well, efficiently, better, so that they have. You spend 8 to 10 hours at work. Like, let's have that be a place where you're thriving, not just existing and getting through it to the end of the week. And then I work with a co-partner, and we do chaos to calm retreats for women. So we do weekend retreats and we do day retreats. So you can follow us at chaos to calm. And then I'm starting a women's mastermind. So we're in one right now. We're coming into month 3. They are 3 month mastermind groups of 10 to 12 women max, so that we develop a really nice, connected, unified, safe, trusted container where I will be doing, like, every week I do a coaching session. We also connect and share together. There's a Facebook group where we go in and there's more learning and prompts. And that goes on for 3 months. So January to March. And I'm currently half full. So if anybody's interested in finding out a little bit more, I have 5 positions still available. And anybody who wants to know if I'm a good fit for them for coaching, I offer a 30-minute clarity call just to see if, we connect, and if what you are desiring is really a coaching experience, or maybe it might be, another form of therapy. Or I work with, people who are in therapy, and also with different modalities as well too. So Beacon Coaching and Leadership. I'm on LinkedIn. Instagram is my favorite social. It's at Beacon_coaching CA. I am on Facebook, and I have a website.
And so when you're on LinkedIn, are you Stephanie Rourke Jackson? Or are you Stephanie Jackson?
I think I'm Stephanie Rourke Jackson.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I mean, it's in the show notes, I guess is what it's called, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's fantastic. I'm so glad, and I hope that people will take you up in your offer to check you out and to call you and see if there's a good fit. Because I think that has to be that's it's an important thing. I sort of recognize that with some of the decisions I've made, with some of the learning I've taken, particularly in marketing, is you have to work with someone who resonates with you, because finding that fit, it's a mutual thing. It's not just sort of just going, okay, well, here's a program. It's like, do I like, and the person that I'm going to be working with. So I think that's important.
Exactly, exactly. And sorry, I just wanted to also one point at the end of working with me, you have an identity statement that you can use on your LinkedIn profile. So if you want to know what my identity statement is,
Yeah.
it's the first 100 words on my LinkedIn profile. So I've gone through and done the exact same program with myself. And I'm an IPSAT certified coach, and IPSAT means Identity Profile Self Assessment Tool. That's out of the States. It's from a company called Next Leader, and they work with emerging leaders and executives on establishing who they are. And I'm also CTI trained as well. But you get that statement, and so you can use it on LinkedIn, on your resume, as a 3 minute kind of intro, like you're at a friend's backyard party and a friend of a friend says, so tell me about yourself. Oh, I can share because I know who I am. 30-second elevator pitch if you need to. It just gives you that ability to be able to speak about who you are and to get what you want. You can use it on your dating profile. It's so many uses.
So and it is such like you said, it's sort of that foundational, really good thing to know who you are, because invariably we're asked, and most of the time, we dumb it down. So tell me about yourself. So it
Yeah.
is good to have that statement and to practice it, because it's all about progress and not perfection, right? At the end of the day, it's like we're evolving as human beings, and just you know just do it, right? If we can quote Nike. Just do it. Just get out of your own way. And that's, I think, I love that, we've had this conversation today, because I think a lot of people can certainly learn from you, and they're going to reach out to you. And your website again was Beacon Coaching?
Yep, beaconcoaching.ca.
CA. Awesome. Well, thank you so much,
Thank you
Stephanie.
so much.
You and I
I loved it. Loved
missed rubbing
connecting with
elbows at
you.
the office together. That was
I
been a long
know.
time ago, but I miss our little hub. And but anyway, so yeah, people can reach you, and thank you again for chatting with me, and I know we're going to talk again soon.
Yeah, for
Okay,
sure. Thank you so much.
bye for now.